I'm going to share a little bit more now about our current situation. Okay, here I've been receiving a few emails and a few reports asking from very concerned brothers and sisters about what's going on in this land. We're about to descend into civil war. Is that right, Aaron? We hear, people are very angry, and there's lots of protests. And I just want to put a perspective on what's going on in Israel. So I hope that people can have the opportunity to pray into the situation. So the Jewish people in Israel are engaging in lots of protests. This is true. There's lots of protests, and it's causing really bad traffic. Okay? And it's causing plane flights to be delayed, and trains aren't working, and buses don't work. It's all gets quite horrible. But we've had protests before. This is not new to Israel, and it's certainly not new to protests around the world. So we're having protests. That's how civilians display their displeasure at the government. It is not a civil war. No one is taking up weapons. No one is shooting each other. That is not happening. And but are we having protests? Yes. Have we had them before? Yes. What is the issue about, I hear you ask? Well, it comes down to a discussion and an argument about the separation of powers between the executive, that's the government, and the judiciary, that would be the Supreme Court. Who can and who cannot make laws, and who can enforce laws, and who can repeal laws. And the argument on one side is we don't want the Supreme Court, which are a non-elected body, creating laws or repealing laws, because then you have non-elected officials running the country. And that's not called a democracy. At the same time, you don't want a situation where the government makes laws that cannot be repealed by an independent body. You do not want tyranny of the masses. What am I talking about? Well, democracy must be more than two wolves and a sheep voting on what to have for lunch. Okay? A pure democracy would say two wolves and one sheep get together, the wolves decide to eat the sheep, and that would be fair in a democracy. If there was no checks or balances, and you need to make sure that a ruling majority doesn't decide to ban Messianics or kick Christians out of the country, or focus on Armenians because you don't like their politics. Okay? So you, at the same time, you can't have a situation where the judiciary, an unelected body, is making laws. When they started the State of Israel, they did not write a constitution which dictated the balance of powers or the separation of powers. That was a mistake. And so Israel needs to get together now. They need to be calm. They need to be humble. They need to get together to write out themselves how their government functions. We've actually had to do this in all of our countries. All of our countries have had to do this. We just haven't had to do it in our present day. So we sometimes forget that we did this hundreds of years ago. Israel is having to do it now. And so they're going to need your prayers. So pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for wisdom for the government. Pray for good advisors to be able to come down. Pray for tempers to calm down, for people to sit down and write out a fair, just way of working out how you create laws, implement laws, and if laws are actually bad, who can actually repeal them. So if we believe that Israel is to be a light to the nations, then this should be a very, very important prayer for us. So pray hard, brothers and sisters. Pray that this Passover, as we celebrate redemption and freedom, we can actually preserve freedom in Israel for all of her citizens. So shalom from Jerusalem, blessings from Canada House. Hag Sameach, a peaceful Passover, a happy Easter, and a joyful resurrection. So the Messiah is alive. Gosh, that's good news.